Hello and welcome to our second video of UKPA umpiring, advices and techniques on improving your umpiring knowledge and ability. That's a new strapline, Chris.
Yeah, I mean it was there in the last time.
Was it?
Yeah.
I just didn't notice.
It's a loose term, isn't it, really? Advice and techniques on improving in the loosest of terms. But either way, yeah, so this time we are going to be looking at penalties. So the 7 deadly penalties, as sometimes they're known to us polar cross people. Can you name all of them? Name all the 7 deadly penalties?
Penalties 1, penalty 2, all the way through to penalty 7.
Christ, we're good at naming stuff. Would you look at that? So we'll go through them all, and then we'll go back to Ian's old favourite, the rule book. So, what can you tell us from this rule book, Ian? What can you tell us?
Penalty 1, very simple, free throw from the spot which the infringement took place in. And I think the key things about this is penalty where you're trying to give an advantage to the team who've been infringed against. So I've got the foul against them. So actually no other player should be getting in the way of them taking that penalty throw until the ball's travelled beyond 10 metres. They should get first chance to pick up that ball and carry on. But they do have to throw the ball. It says at least 10 metres. In truth, I think we all know that actually penalty throws normally travel somewhere between 5 and 10 metres, and the player's probably picking them up close to 10 metres.
Yeah, I think some of the myths we get are that the ball's got to be thrown 10 metres in the air. I've heard that one before. That's not true. And actually nowadays people are taking it a lot lower, especially at the higher levels, just so it gets the penalty done quicker if you're not throwing it as high in the air. Or that it's only one bounce. It can absolutely stop and roll on the floor as long as people are... it's not going over 10 metres, that's absolutely fine. And if you look down at the bottom of this one, it talks about people staying away until the ball is thrown. Absolutely no problem with someone encroaching on that as soon as it's thrown, but as long as they don't touch the player or the ball until it has travelled 10 metres. So this next one, I think this looks a World Cup video. If you're the umpire here, Ian, what are you saying? How are you setting this penalty 1 up that was given?
So you're setting up, you're telling all the other players to get away 10 metres. At the moment they're not, so you're telling your player where the spot is to play from, pointing very clearly there, says play it from there, everybody else 10 metres away, and the UK can just go and take that free throw.
Yeah, and if we look at old Home Nations video here, we see when they're not being given 10 metres and actually there's a foul, and we don't get that advantage, that first go on the ball before it's travelled 10 metres, and rightly there the umpire blows the whistle and ends up moving it up the field to a penalty 3 in that situation. So what happens if a penalty happens at the end of a chucker, Ian? End of a chucker.
So if you do not manage to get the penalty taken before the bell sounds or the hooter sounds, then actually it will travel over to the next chucker. Now normally in a full team situation that would be the other section coming on, but obviously if you're just playing as a section it will wait 6 minutes and come when you come back on. The only exception to that would be one right at the end of a game when it's actually in the goal scoring area, when you do actually get a chance to take it. But most of the time, it will go over to the next chucker and the team will get a chance to take it for the next time they go on the pitch. Yeah,
so that was just that foul on termination, part B there. So if there's a penalty 1 given in the area where they can actually shoot directly at goal, or a penalty 3, which is a free shot at goal, which we'll come on to a bit later, they can just give that. Even if time's gone, you'll still get the opportunity to take the penalty. Okay, next one's up, penalty 2 then, Ian. What are we doing from penalty 2?
So penalty 2, as we just saw in that video with the USA game, taken from within centre field from a central spot on the penalty line in a forward direction. So that's sort of classic penalty into the area situation for a number 1.
Yeah, I think sometimes lower down the grades we sometimes see this, actually it doesn't get moved to the centre of the pitch and it sort of get moved in line, and that was a bit of a myth a few years ago. And if we have a look here, we see a cheeky little down hit from Alex Brown a few years ago now, I think, actually. And rightly so, rather than staying in line, the umpire brings it to the middle of the pitch there. So middle of that 30-yard line, going in because he's got to be taken in a forward direction, and he gets robbed legally by the other brown boy. Poor Theo.
So this is penalty 3. This is the actual shot at goal. So So a free throw at the goal from the central spot just outside the D. I think we're all probably quite familiar with this, and it is basically just a free shot at goal. So here we've got a situation, UK number 1 up against New Zealand. I think there's a bit of a swing from the wrong side of a horse there, or maybe a little bit flat and at his face. So Joel, I think, is just going to get the free shot in front of a post, and he'll just come in and take a big high one up over the top and goal to the UK. So that's a penalty 3.
Yeah, just on those penalty 3s, just making sure the number 3 doesn't advance. Sometimes you see the number 3 sort of running at the number 1 there. And what would you do in that situation, Ian, if they were running at the player?
Well, I'd probably just give a free goal straight away, in all honesty.
Yeah, so I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We've really got to look to elevate the penalties where there's not been given advantage. So it's just making that a harsher penalty, a goal on the board in that situation, which brings us neatly on to our penalty 4.
Which is a goal on the board.
Excellent, and I would imagine everyone's had a goal on the board against them. Some of us more than others, Ian. But goal on the board usually reserves sort of our dangerous riding, hits to the head.
Dangerous play, generally.
Dangerous play.
Yeah, is how it's described in the rule book.
Nowadays in the UKPA, they are tracking dangerous plays a lot more closely.
Yep.
So it will get added up over the season and can actually lead to missing parts of your game.
Yeah.
I think we trialled that at Nationals this year.
Yeah.
Or last year, I should say.
Yeah. And I think it's also worth just noting that we were involved, weren't we, in going through the rule book a bit, all the exec umpires, and flagging that actually there was a number of penalties in there which were dangerous penalties, which currently gave us a range of options for penalties to be given. But actually the rule book's been tidied up this year to make it clear that actually wherever it's dangerous, it will go straight to a penalty 4.
Yeah, so I think that's going to look a lot more. We'll certainly get into that on another video, but poor Robin Winder takes a penalty 4 there. I haven't included too many videos on the next lot of penalties, partly because they're not that pretty once someone's been sent off. Penalty 5 then. So this is our horses that are a bit naughty and
naughty
being
horses.
sent off. What would you send a horse off for, Ian?
Normally, I would say you normally get them sent off for dangerous behaviour. So kicking, rearing, being out of control are probably the classic ones. I guess you could get one sent off for biting or something like that if it was repetitive, but normally it is, normally the classic one is kicking.
Yeah, so just a little caveat on that. There is form to fill in if you are on the table that is sort of dangerous vice record for horses if they do get sent off. There are a couple of other ones if you are a big fan of the rulebook like Ian. Hopefully no one's playing a horse that's blind in one eye or a stallion. Hopefully that will never get to the stage where that's on the pitch. But just one to bear in mind in case someone's trying it on with you. Or they bring a stallion with one eye, which should throw a right spanner in the works. But you can, as I say, you can send a horse if they are out of control. And we will come into sort of substituting horses and players together at the end of this as well. Because obviously they are allowed to get on a different horse. Penalty 6 then, what's that, Ian?
So penalty 6 is when you actually send a player off for part of the match. So the rulebook says up to 3 minutes in any time period, which basically means a chucker. But normally we probably more typically send someone off for 2 minutes.
Yeah, so after that send-off, if you do have to do that, the section will usually rejig, especially if it's a number 1 or a number 3 that's been sent off.
Yeah.
You'll end up having to move that 2 player, and when they come back in, they've got to take that vacant position, so they've got to come in as a number 2 until that chucker has finished. We'll see, well, I would imagine we will see more penalty 6s this year.
I think if we award more penalty 4s, which is the intention for any sort of dangerous play, that will then translate through into more penalty 6s. Because in truth, if you're awarding a penalty 4 and then you award another free goal against the same player, particularly if it's for the same offence, you're probably going to be looking to escalate that and send the player off for 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's not something particularly everyone enjoys being sent off for. But we've seen it with rugby union and bringing down the high tackle where sort of penalties have been allowed or dangerous riding or dangerous plays have been allowed to increase. All that's happened to try and counteract that and make us a safer sport is trying to make those penalties a bit more severe, and therefore we will see a reduction, hopefully, in them occurring. Difference between penalty 6 and 7, Ian?
And penalty 7 is when you actually are basically excluding a player from the rest of the match. So you're sort of sending them off for the remainder of the game. The only thing is here that they can bring on a substitute player after a 3-minute period has elapsed.
Yeah, so it's in the starts, it's essentially the same as that penalty 6, although after that 3 minutes they can bring a fresh player back in. And if we look onto this next slide, we look at our substitution of players and horses, in case we've awarded a penalty 5 there. So Ian, what are you looking for in a substituted player?
So the substitute player will have to be someone who is not graded any higher than the player who's been sent off, and cannot be more than 3 grading points below them in order for them to be safe to play in that grade is the thought process there.
Yeah, and the other thing that has changed, and you'll see sort of highlighted in red across there, and this was sort of a unwritten rule that was brought in last year, about if a new substitute player comes in, so this could be injury as well, it isn't just a penalty 7 awarded, it could be injury, that they can bring their own horse. So that was just trying to make it a bit easier. Say if I'm significantly heavier than Ian, for example, and Ian might not want me getting, how dare you, if Ian doesn't want me getting on his very lightweight horse or non-existent horse at the moment,
hard to get on.
I can play in Ian's place if I'm the same grading or below. And substituting a horse, so this would be a penalty 5 given. What do we need for on substituting a horse?
Well, there's not grading of horses, so in truth it's not like you can compare the horse and say it's of a similar standard. The important thing here is that it itself must be fit to play, so not a stallion, not blind in one eye,
not a blinded stallion,
not showing any vices or disease. And I think the other thing also is if you can bring on a substitute horse, the other team is also allowed to bring on a substitute horse.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with substitute horse, it is the same rule at the moment that is for a lost shoe and things like that. So they're allowed that 10-minute window from once that horse has been sent off. Exactly the same with sort of the vetting out procedure or the shoeing procedure as standard at the moment. So we haven't seen a video in a while. We get to go back to the World Cup here. Bit of smart play from Webby there. We don't quite know if he managed to get the interference in here or whether he gets a professional foul against him, which is where you're sort of playing to gain a foul.
Yeah.
And I think the umpires in this video are as confused as we are. So what would you do if you're as confused as those two?
So, as an umpire, you can always go and seek further advice. So the guys in the World Cup will have a tournament umpire on the table, which I think is where they might be heading off to now, a match referee. And in the UKPA, you can always radio for an exec umpire, or there might be one by the side of the pitch anyway who can come across and help you. If you talk them through what happened, they can say, well, this is the rule and this is what you should do.
Yeah, absolutely. So just holding time. There is also, or should always be, a rule book in the table box. Your field marshal can help you with that. Or that exec umpire you can always call for as well if you need to. However, thank you very much for watching again.
Yes, thank you.
We will be back with number 3, and I think next time we're going to be looking at some dangerous riding and some crossing. So getting into the tasty stuff.
Yep, which we'll be giving out lots of penalty 4s for.
Absolutely. We'll see you all again.
Bye.